I'd like to call the February meeting of the Bella Vista Village Property Owners Association Board of Directors to order. If you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Doug, if you could lead us. Everyone would remain standing. The invocation tonight will be by Dwayne Mitchell. Dwayne?
Let's pray. Father, your word says it's good to give thanks to you. And Lord, we just want to thank you for the blessings this day and the gift of life that you've given each one of us. Lord, thank you for another day to be alive and experience your creation, Lord, in this place. Father, thanks for sending us your Son as our Redeemer and the great price he paid to redeem us all. Father, as your words clearly tells us, Father, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Lord, thank you for your protection from the recent weather and the experiences. And we ask you, Father, for continued protection, Father, for what lies ahead, Father, for our friends, our family, and, Lord, our loved ones in the days to come. Lord, we pray for guidance, for strength, along with your wisdom from on high, Lord, as we conduct the association's business in this place. Lord, as the old hymn says, we need thee every hour. Lord, I need thee every hour, Lord, and we all need you every hour, Father, even as to our next breath. Lord, it's in the mighty name of Jesus we pray these prayers, and we ask this petition in your name. Amen.
Please be seated. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight? Hearing none. I have the proxy for Dave Barfield. Okay. Next item is report on board executive session. There was a board executive session on January 20th and also on February 12th. The board at the executive session on January 20th met to complete review of the terms and provisions of the general manager's employment agreement. The employment agreement approved by the board was signed on January 29th. The employment agreement substantially decreases the base salary of the general manager, provides for employment at will, outlines specific performance obligations, and provides for a reasonable severance payment in the event of a termination not for cause. The board believes this revised employment agreement is fair-minded and in the best interest of the members. We also had an executive session on February 12th to discuss the proposed lease agreement for the Highlands Clubhouse restaurant. All right. Next item is approval of the minutes of the January 15th regular board meeting. Second. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Vote to approve the minutes from last board meeting. All in favor?
The next item on the agenda, some of you have driven by Lancashire at the Tanner Creek driving range and seen the fencing around the parking lot entrance to the Tanner Creek Trail. There's been some work done regarding remediating that Tanner Creek Trail as a result of the flood that we had in August of 2013. John Nuttall and Daryl Bowman have put together a little short video to kind of explain what it is that's going on. So if we could get that video up.
I don't know where the volume is back there. Volume down there by where it says HD. The little bars to the left of that. Right there?
Creek is now suffering from severe stream bank erosion Because of the increased water quality, water velocity over the last 4 years or so coming from Lake Windsor. Owners Association, Owners College. Welcome to Tangier Creek Nature Trail, one of Bella Vista's most beautiful features. I'm Darrell Bowman, the Lake Ecology and Fisheries Manager for Bella Vista Village Property Owners Association. Tangier Creek along the trail has problems because of the lake up above. The creek receives floods and the lake doesn't have any flood storage, so the lake being there doesn't change the flooding, but it changes the velocity of the water coming down to the creek because the dam is so much higher than the creek bed. Therefore, Tangier Creek is now suffering from severe stream bank erosion because of the increased water quality, water velocity over the last 4 years or so coming from Lake Windsor. Owners Association has teamed with the Watershed Conservation Resource Center to improve the aquatic habitat in Tangier Creek by restoring and improving the riparian stream bank areas and the stream bed itself using natural channel design engineering methodology along with bioengineering technique. In these satellite maps from Google Earth, you can see the movement of the stream between March of 2012 and March of 2014. The third photo was taken before the big flood event in August, which moved the stream bed another 30 feet. This project will restore the stream bed with natural channel design engineering. Let's go see how this is done.
When I got here in 2007, this stream was running over here. By 2014, the stream was running all the way back here, where you see the top of an old eroded bank. All this material has already been filled in in a very specific way, and we've moved the channel back over here where it's supposed to be with this tow wood structure, these rock veins that are being built right now. Under this row of ledge rock are footer logs that are running that direction. And then these are the root wads hooked over the footer logs, and those are whole trees running back into the bank under all this. And all those trees are interlocked like this, along with rock and fill. So that bank shouldn't be able to go anywhere. You get the idea. This gets stuck in all the way down through here are live cuttings of willow and sycamore, natural trees that be here anyway, and they'll start growing immediately right out of this bank. And all that's going to be planted with streamside vegetation also.
Here you can see crews planting the reformed stream bank with native plants and trees. Establishing this vegetation is what will stabilize the stream banks for future high water events. That's the goal of this project, is to reestablish a solid riparian zone with a lot of vegetation in the form of trees and shrubs.
The structure Dale's building is called a rock vein or a J-hook vein, and those big rock are now going to come. They're going to move down into the stream bed, coming upstream at about 10% angle off the bank, and eventually just bury right into the stream bed. And when the flow comes up, that structure causes the flow to move out into the middle of the channel, and it makes eddy current back here on the stream bank, and it actually builds sediments on the stream bank. Below the largest rocks you see are 2 more layers of rocks that size. I think he went down 11 feet to bedrock right there. Building footers for these structures is the key. You can't just dump riprap in a stream and have it stay there. To give an example of the expertise we have here, when Dale was building the tow wood bench according to the engineer's specs, Matt, the engineer, there was going to be this rock vein was going to start here and go upstream, and Dale already put in the footer rocks for it when he was building the tow wood bench. But based on his experience, Dale suggested to Matt, the engineer, that we move it upstream a ways, and Matt agreed. So there's footer rock here that now are being utilized, and the structure is right there. And that's based on the experience of Dale Hockin on the machine.
Describe what the logs are here.
What you see here is a tow wood bank structure. These logs are sticking out the root wad ends, and they're hooked over a footer log that's running underneath all of this, the whole length of this bank. The footer log's down probably 6 feet, laying on bedrock. These trees are hooked over it and running back under all this fill material into the bank with ledge rock on top. So the structure can't move back and be eroded. So this J-hook vein is a current velocity control structure. And as you can see, looking downstream, the highest point of the vein is at the bottom end of it, and it drops in elevation and wraps into the stream channel. So as floodwater comes up in the stream, water will flow over this vein in this manner, so the velocity stays over to the inside of the bend, and the velocity is dropped, and there's eddy current on the outside of the bend. So this structure will prevent erosion of the outside bank, along with the rest of the toewood structure we built.
The operator built this stream bank in one day on the first day on the job. It's an example of using limestone to create a rock ledge bank and stop the erosion on this bank. Vegetation is also planted between all of these stones. Someday willow trees and sycamores will be growing out of this rock to establish a riparian zone in this area also. In the photo you can see fish in this hole where this new bank was created. The fish were there before the work started, and once the water cleared and the work was finished, the fish are still there and seem to be enjoying the new environment. Here you see the J-hook vein on the upstream end when it's finished. Not only is this controlling the flow in the manner that we wanted, but it's also providing great fish habitat. As you can see, the plunge pool below is several feet deep. From here on out, the rest of the project involves trying to reestablish the riparian zone by planting a great deal of vegetation in the form of rooted cuttings and potted plants. We'll use our own labor and a lot of volunteers to do this. And our plan is to have this area open to the public by the spring of 2015. Thanks.
Tommy, could you explain a little bit about how the work that we saw is being done, and more importantly, how it's being paid for?
Sure. This is actually the culmination of a work that's been going for probably 4 years now. The 2008 flood, the August flood of 2012 was not the flood that we could do all repairs on. There's been numerous floods throughout the years, and again, this was a trail built into a flood area. A lot of the riparian areas was destroyed to make it where we could walk up to the water and all that type of thing, which we now know is exactly what you don't want to do. This natural stream design has probably not been out even a decade now. This is fairly new technology. It is based on the type of topography and the area that you are. Done right, an Ozark area will be done differently than maybe something in the Rocky Mountains or wherever. But this is something that is preferred and hopefully will be a long-term fix for this project. If you will watch the Little Sugar is a good example over time. We have spent probably in the last 7 years $300,000 or more hardening different areas along Little Sugar because of the flooding that keeps occurring, and we're using riprap. A lot better than the concrete and asphalt blocks that we used to use, but it's still the only thing it does, because it's not addressing the whole issue, it just moves the problem further and further. And so the next thing you know, another place has started to cut, and we go in and riprap it. The theory is, and as I said, it's been out for a while now, that done right in a natural state with vegetation to hold it in place, using the rock and such, that it should be something that will take care of the whole problem for many years to come. As far as the funding, we contracted with a local engineering company. It's a couple of people that specialize in this, and we contracted with them that if they could go out and get the grant money available to do this project, then that's where, that we would then have money to pay them to put the project together. They had to do some initial work that we had to pay for out of pocket just to be able to turn in for the grant work. At this point in time, all of our contribution towards this is through either in-kind with our labor and equipment. Some of the equipment that was being used there was ours. All of the loads of rock and such we bought and we brought in, except for the really large ones. Also, the trees, you may have noticed them at the stump dumps, and I know that I've showed them on a number of occasions in my reports. We've been collecting the trees with the root balls attached for probably over a year now. As we would find them or as we would need to remove a tree, we would collect those and set them aside. So this project, we went through, cleaned it all up, established a road, put in the rock, because of course we are during the wintertime, we're getting rain and such, and that was comprised the contribution that we put into this. The total cost of this, I believe, is in the neighborhood of $225,000 or something like that, and our contribution is somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50, if I'm not mistaken. Certainly the project is not complete. It's going to take probably a couple of years for it to fully grow in. And so certainly if we were to have another repeat of that August flood before the vegetation has had a chance to root, then it's going to certainly destroy some of the work that has been done, and we'll have to come through and do some replanting and probably some resodding. But at least the major structure with the rock veins and stuff should remain in place.
So the individual that was installing the rock and that time and the design was all grant money that came from the state of Arkansas?
Yes. And the one of the interesting things that Darrell mentioned a number of times about the experience of this person, it is actually now a man and his son, and with his wife doing the support for them that they have. And he told me at one point, the gentleman had, I think he's worked in almost 30 states and like 4 different countries, has been doing this and has developed this over time. And he's been working, he actually worked with the person, I guess, that's given the acknowledgement of being the father of the natural stream design. So he is the expert. He was brought in from Colorado to do this, and he's apparently foremost in his field.
Any questions from the board?
Thank you, John. That was a good
That was
effort.
very good. Kevin Lannister's report, Tommy?
I have briefed my report down slightly because we have closed our December books. We certainly have not audited them yet. That will be coming here fairly soon. But I've asked Dwayne to walk through the numbers and to give us explanations of the variances. So as soon as I'm going to go through just a few things of the activities in January, and then I'll turn it over to Dwayne. Just the TEI update, our go-live dates, golf and recreation came up on Sunday, February the 1st. Membership services went live on August the 9th. Certainly that is not that everything is installed. We've still got bugs to work out. We've still got reports to write, all those type of things to make sure that we're getting, yes.
TEI is the total e-software implementation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it is totally incorporated, I believe is, yeah. That's the total name. When we started working with them, it was, they were eGolf. Not eGolf. Yeah, it was eGolf. They were mostly, they still haven't made the transition to being a full package and changing their names. They were already in place in some Sun City, 2 of the Sun City communities over in Phoenix, but they've now changed it to TEI officially. We did run into some snags, as you would expect, with the major software transition. One of the things that we rely completely on Cox. We don't have any internal fiber backbone to our network, and so if there's an issue with Cox, does give us a problem. This, of course, is a real-time software. That's one of the things that we were wanting. So there's real-time communication between all of our facilities that are now installed on Total E. So if there is any decrease in bandwidth or speed of the bandwidth at Cox, then we certainly will see that in the information that's bouncing back and forth between the facilities. Tennis plans to go online as soon as the weather clears up. The web portal is on target for the end of the first quarter, and this is where our members will be able to get in and pay for things online. The project, of course, is still on schedule, so we're still working through quite a few things. Certainly, the membership still needs to continue to bear with us. There's areas like Reardon Hall that's never had a POS system, so certainly there's extra steps that was not required in the past. One of the things that we're hoping to do in the future that's been a complaint is that if you're in the Silver Sneakers program, then you have to sign in twice, scan 2 cards. We hope at some point in time, I don't know if it'll be this year, but we hope to be able to integrate some of that with Silver Sneakers so they can just get the information directly off of our scanned cards. So real pleased with how things have gone so far. As far as the water lines, we had 21 1-inch leaks that repaired, 1 6-inch and 1 12-inch, so not too bad of a month as far as water leaks. Other things that either happen particularly this month or happen every month, we had 68 of our pressure reducing valves tested. Because of our topography with up and down, we have high pressures and low pressures as you're going up and down the hills. And so we have to put in pressure reducing valves in areas to try to reduce the line pressure, not only for the residential lines, but also because of our lines. We've serviced and maintained 246 fire hydrants. We have to take bacteriological samples every month and submit those to the health department. There's 30 of those now required. Almost 13,000 water meters were read and then billed. 447 work orders were completed. We had 171 one-call locates, and about 70 foot of 1-inch galvanized line has been replaced. And this is an ongoing thing. There's a lot of galvanized line out there. Most of it's the smaller stuff, and galvanized line does not last well in our soil. Generally, when we try to tap it on for a new service, it just crumbles and we have to replace the streets line. There's another one, okay. Because of our older facilities, not very well insulated in a lot of cases, we generally have quite a bit of fire suppression system issues when the weather gets really cold. We had them at Metfield. We had issue at Ranchwood with the water lines to the showers. Issues, of course, at the RV park. We have heat tapes on these, but heat tapes fail, and then when that happens, lines burst. Scottsdale Cart shed sprinkler had problems. You see us trying to thaw it out so we can fix it. There's water standing. Highlands Cart shed sprinkler problem. Metfield Cart shed had a line freeze. Also had one at, there's a second one there, another one there. And also at the country club. Working on as we know, the Veterans Wall has been here unbelievably. I think it's been here now for close to 10 years. And there's things there that are starting to age, as you would expect. And so we essentially have taken on most of the maintenance of that facility. We had to replace a couple of heaters. Of course, Dazzling Village Lights is over, and so it takes quite a few hours to go through and remove all the ornaments and the lighting. We have a lot of backflow repairs that happen, probably 2 or 3 of these a month at our different facilities. This old flooring, we had to replace some of this. This happens fairly routinely. Water gets spilt on it, doesn't get cleaned up, or maybe gouges happen or whatever, and we have to come in and replace some of it. The country club had a roof leak. I think that's the most significant one that we've had since we redid the building, and we certainly had a lot of leaks for many years. That when we redid the building, we fixed most of the areas, and we went from a shake shingles over to the asphalt, redid a lot of the area where we had flat roofs, but again, time does wear out things. Replaced the chair rail at Reardon Hall. We installed an omelet bar at the country club. Trip hazards, because of our aging asphalt and sidewalks and their proximity to trees. We have constant movement, and then of course you have your potholes that form, and so trip hazards are continually coming forward that we have to address. We had the meeting at the Highlands Clubhouse. Of course, ongoing thing when you have this many facilities, cleaning out the gutters. We had sewer line issues. Working here on some of our erosion issues around our golf cart paths. Tree removal with all the trees that have died over the last 3 years. We are removing quite a few of those. And of course, it's hard to keep up with the leaves that are falling because of all the hardwoods that we have in our area. Memory Garden out here in front of the country club. Is one of the beautiful features that we have that was started many, many years ago, and we continue to maintain it and plant it. Even though there's not a lot of building going on, just because of all the dead trees that are being removed throughout the area, the stump dump has been unusually busy. We wrapped up the demo of the VFW building site over by the Wall of Honor, and there was the completed project. I know there's some different discussions at the meeting that they held yesterday at the Veterans Council. There's some discussion about putting up a Submariners, a little park memorial right here. I know that they had some designs that looked really nice. I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but at least what I'm getting from them at this point is they would like to donate this to us as for us to add as a park. Replacing the abutments. This is the bridge that's just right below the Lake Windsor Dam that was knocked out from the bad flood that we had. Fifth wheel ran into the little building that we have there that had to be repaired. We sunk 106 Christmas trees at Loch Lomond, and this was something that the Bella Vista Fly Tires assisted us with, as they always do. A few things happening. We're continuing to repair bad areas that were damaged by the flood at the different golf courses. And of course, we're using concrete when we go back, especially in some areas where we need something a little hardier than asphalt. Refinish the Kingswood shop floor. A little bit of work on bunkers. We're not doing a lot of those, but as we talked about, we bought sand for the first time in a couple of years, and so we're doing some work on some of those and working the drainage. Some dead tree removal around around the Metfield Golf Course. General maintenance out there with the pre-emergence, and that completes my part of the report. Wayne, if I could ask you to go over the financials.
Thank you. These are the financials unaudited, as Tommy has already said. This will be the POA and then the water utility. Starting off with the POA statement, and these are in thousands, so When it says 8,636, that's 8,636,000, and then 36 will be 36,000. Assessments ended better than budget by 36,000. That's kind of where it's been all year. It's kind of been trailing that way. Golf, that was a big one, and we talked about that before, but we had budgeted in 2014 192,000, and we ended up with about 176. That's a lot of what happened here. Plus, we moved some annual fees. We moved some annual greens fees, annual cart fees, and other things into the new with the fee structure that we had. We were down 481,000 in the golf fees, and we were up 13,000 in the pro shop sales. Boat registrations is another big thing in dock fees. They combine about half and half, 37 down in this area. Interest on investments a little higher than budgeted, about 38,000. Hopefully, we get our new investment policy with the new investment manager, and we'll see that gain quite a bit. Lot sales were down as a whole, about 57,000 from budget. Transfer fees also were down, and that has to do kind of with lot sales. That kind of goes hand in hand, 84,000. And other income was quite a bit higher, as we all know. The sale of the property to the city of Bella Vista happened in January, and that was an unbudgeted item, so that's really what that 1,241,000 stands for right there. Total income, therefore, on the POA was 634,000 better, where you can see for the differences, the pluses and minuses. Looking at the cost of sales, it's mainly Pro Shop. Pro Shop was a little higher. We had some write-offs in the year for obsolete merchandise, and so when these are sold this year, there'll be a no-cost item, and you'll see that go back the other way. But we had some last-minute write-offs at the end of the year, and I think they're going to be used in the Golf Expo as far as making some bargains to some people. But anyway, that's 46,000 higher than budget. Gross profit on this statement then is 588,000 better than budget. Moving down to the expenses, salaries and wages a big expense. It was under budget by 125,000, and that's due to some early retirement cost-cutting measures that we did, and also vacancies that we have not filled. Employee benefits, health insurance, slightly above budget, about 33,000. Maintenance and repairs, primary flood repairs, and that's funded by reserve, so the money will be coming down in the simple cash flow, but it's about 122,000 higher than what was budgeted. Got some savings here in supplies, 224,000 better than budget. That's due to chemical prices, fertilizer, seeds, and other supplies across the division. We had quite a bit in golf. Golf amounts for a lot of that portion of 224,000. Membership transfer and travel, or membership training and travel. This always gets cut when we're trying to balance our budget, and this also happened this year. A reduction in training that we had budgeted to attend people to, about 26,000 here. Fuel and oil, due to fuel savings, as you know, fuel prices had kind of decreased above what we had budgeted. So that's a 29,000 savings overall, the POA. Professional services down 40,000. Mainly that's legal and some safety consultant savings. We've got the new safety guy, and we still had some budgeting for the safety that we were paying out, and so that's some savings there of about 40,000. Total expenses on this statement there is about 344,000 better than budget, and you can see some of the bigger items that are driving that. Looking down on the net income and cost of operations, we had budgeted 148,000 loss, and we actually ended up 805 positive, which is 953 better than budget. Going down in simple cash flow, the big item here is the book value of the asset sold to the city of Bella Vista. It still had some book value, so that had to be accounted for. And so in simple cash flow, we had that back. That's not a cash loss. That's just a book loss, 628. And the same thing when we fixed the country club pump station, we had some assets we had to retire for the new assets, and that's 41,000. Subtract capital projects, we had a savings here, but mainly what this is projects that you all have budgeted, but we haven't done yet, some ADA and some other things, and so that's why the difference, that's why it's better than budget by 1,167,000 in capital assets, better by 346. And you'll see the compensating number down here is in reserves for carryover capital. We didn't spend the reserves that you had allocated, and that's why we haven't done the projects, but when we do the projects, the reserves will be spent also. We actually had about 120,000 better in capital projects that we finished and completed, so we were still better than budget on capital projects overall. Reserves for other projects, this is reserves for other retirement cost cutting that we set aside, flood damage and other things, and that's 339,000 higher than budget. and that attributes, like the flood money up there, that's where it's coming in. Simple cash flow, therefore, on this statement is $2,111,000 better than budget. And talking about the sale of the assets, we had a $1,247,000, as you saw, the gain in the sale of assets, plus the book value, $628,000. So the sale was $1,875,000. And if you take that equation out of the $2,111,000, we were still positive at $236,000 better than budget on simple cash flow. So that's good. That's positive. That's very positive. Looking at the water utility, the same statement. These are also in the thousands. Interest on investment. There was no money budgeted in the 2014 budget for the interest. The water had accumulated so much money, we actually divided that up into two statements, and so water had $36,000 positive that was not budgeted, and that's why there's a zero budget there. Water sales were down, as we all know, they were down the whole year. Excuse me, $512,000 in water fees and water sales. Other income is better than budget by $110,000. About $70,000 of that is due to FEMA flood money that we got from government, and the auction gain on sale of assets is due for the balance. We sold obsolete assets that POA had at the auction. Total income on the water statement there is $336,000 less than budget. Water cost of sales was a plus to budget. It's a better than budget by 83. We didn't sell it, so we didn't have the higher cost, so that's an 83 savings. Gross profit, therefore, is $283,000 better than budget. Or worse than budget, excuse me. It's been a long day. Salary and wages on this statement are about $107,000, and that's truly due to vacancies. We've had trouble filling a lot of positions in water, so that's $107,000 savings in the water budget on salaries. Maintenance and repairs savings of $88,000. That's just things that we didn't do. Because the sales were reduced, we try to keep our balanced budget in all aspects, and so we had some things that budgeted we just didn't do for $88,000. Same way with supplies, we had budgeted meter installs that just didn't happen, or other equipment repairs of $225,000. That's a savings over budget.
On the employees, since we don't have all the employees we need. Since we don't have all the employees we need for water, the people who have to repair, I mean, there's repairs that have to be done.
Yes.
Are they paid overtime?
They are, if they're hourly people, yes. Yeah, if they're called out after hours and they're hourly people, yes, they will get paid. Fuel and oil, another savings here, $25,000, as we saw fuel prices. Interest expense and credit card charges, that's worse than budget by $49,000. And what that is, we had to flush the old bond expense when we did our refinancing. We had some old bond expense that was on the book. It had to get flushed out for the new bond expense. But that's where that came from. And some credit card fees that were higher than budget. We got more people paying online and more people paying with credit cards for their water bill. That's positive. Other is street cuts were budgeted higher than budget, so that's a savings of $76,000. We budgeted more street cuts than we actually did. Total expenses, therefore, is another savings on this one. We saw the revenue decrease, but we also saw the expenses decreased on this statement of $486,000 better than budget. Income and cost of operation on the water utility is $217,000 better than budget. In simple cash flow, we had capital projects, and the savings here is actually a savings. These are projects. We had budgeted the water line replacement. We didn't use all those funds, and so that's actually a savings of $382,000, and on capital assets of $9,000. In this year, in 2015, we'll just have one column or one line on this. It'll just be capital projects. The way we had done before, in this statement, capital projects was anything $50,000 and above, and capital assets was $10,000 up to $49,999. But in 2015, we're going back just to anything of $10,000 above is capital, for simplicity of everybody. In reserves for carryover capital, that's $130 better than budget. And what that is, that's the university study that they haven't finished yet, but it was budgeted to be in 2014. So that's $130 that's better than budget. We're carrying that money over. Reserves for other projects and financing, this is the flood money. Water actually had some flood money too, and that's $18,000 there. And then debt service changed. We had budgeted $330, but with the new bond, we're paying it off a little faster, so there's more principal being paid. So that's the additional $20,000 that's coming out of the debt service side. Then simple cash flow is $464 with all those numbers. We had budgeted we budgeted $649,000 to be on simple cash flow, we came in at $1,113,000 or $464,000 better than budget. That concludes my report. Penny, any questions?
Questions from the board? Just a couple.
I do have, Dwayne, I do have a question for this month. On page or attachment 5.
Okay.
RV parks, the actual 5,000 and the timing was actually 25,000, but why in the world would you budget 70,000 for January?
RV park includes RV storage, and they're all due at the first of the year. That's the permit. So RV park isn't just RV park. It should just say RV, but it's RV park and RV storage. And RV storage is the majority of that. We have very little RV park now.
Just a couple of additional items to point out in the general manager's report. There were 38 new property owners, people that bought property in Bella Vista that had not been property owners before January. We have 152 full-time employees budgeted for 2015. We have 140 full-time employees, so we have 12 open positions. We've been coordinating the rezoning of the south entrance sign with the city of Bella Vista. There were 5,800 golf rounds played in January. We're about 1,600 rounds over budget. There were 750 catchable size rainbow trout stocked in Lake Brittany, which is the continuation of our winter trout program. Anything else on the general manager's report? Next item on the agenda is the response to open forum comments. And going back and looking at the minutes for the January meeting, there were a number of comments regarding the Highlands Restaurant. Those were either addressed at the January meeting or there were opportunities for people to ask questions at the meeting that we scheduled at the Highlands Restaurant on January 29th. Next item is open forum. Anyone who wishes to address the board, if you would approach the microphone and please give us your name and address. We would ask you to try and limit your comments to a few minutes so that other people who would like to address the board have an opportunity. So here's your chance to ask us questions. Zaideen.
My name is Zaideen Oyer, 10 Carter Circle. I want to talk a little bit tonight to you about the Metfield Clubhouse and what you might want to do about it. Some of you know that I've been involved out there for quite a long time, and I was involved in some of the planning early on before the building was remodeled. So in summary, I'm going back to talk about what the people think out there. First of all, they want a place to gather after golf. They need some level of food service, but we know a restaurant will not fly. A full-service restaurant will not fly. It's been pretty obvious that it hasn't worked very well. We are looking for something that has a place for people to play cards and other activities, including youth activities, and an exercise area. Now, that's a huge building, and we think it's possible, so we would like to recommend that you put the snack bar associated with the pro shop, incorporating the Brittany room, the little office between the Brittany room and the pro shop, and the associated hallway. I want to see you move forward on gutting that kitchen so that you can evaluate the space that you gain there for incorporating some of the other needs of the community. And finally, we hope that you'll be able to find a relocation for membership services that the whole community would like to see, we think. But the biggest thing we want you to do is good planning, do the job right the first time, please. And in light of that, we'd like to see you take advantage of Papa Mike's offer to help you with the physical design as well as an operating design. He knows very well how to operate. He knows our clients. I mean, he knows this community. He's the most successful restaurateur you've had in a long time. He's offered to help you design the area. He successfully ran a similar operation at the college for 7 years before he went to where he is now. So he knows about how to operate one of those kind of situations, and I really do hope you'll take advantage of his offer to do that. And we know that it's expensive, but everything we do is expensive, and we also know that This is a time, it will take a time to do this, but we have to get it planned well and get started. Do it right the first time, please.
Thank you. Zadine, if I might inquire, there were several of us that were at the Metfield Neighbors Breakfast this past Saturday, and the general consensus of the individuals that were in attendance at the breakfast was that what you've just articulated is what we heard as sort of the general opinion of those folks in attendance. Is that sort of a correct characterization?
Yes, that's correct, and it's basically the same thing we said 3 or 4 years ago before we started to remodel out there, that we knew that a restaurant wasn't likely to work.
Okay.
And,
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
but yes, that's right. The only issue that you heard that was negative was where are we going to play cards?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to address the Metfield situation? Okay. Next.
Charles Henning, 36 Kayleen Drive, here to talk about the $10 convenience fee on the annual golf green fee. Now, this isn't a case of me coming to the board and trying to get anybody. I have an ongoing email with the chair. I've met with Mr. Bailey, so I've not got an adequate response, and therefore I'm coming to the board. First, if you, and I'm one of these, when you went and got your annual greens fee, if you elected to pay it by month, you had to agree that you would have your water bill and your assessment fee also done by ACH, electronic transfer. So therefore, in my record, I'm having 3 ACH charges, I guess. First thing is this: an ACH charge through the Federal Reserve System costs 10 cents. $10 seems excessive to me and unreasonable. So just using the golf thing as an example, and I'll get into the other, if you multiply 10 cents times 12, it's $1.20 a year, and you're charging $120. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Second is, when I met with Mr. Bailey, and these are his numbers, he told me that between $4,000 and $6,000 a month, there are ACH transactions on water and on assessment. So I just evened it out, and I'm saying 4,500 transactions for water, 4,500 transactions for assessment. That's $9,000 a month times $10, which you're not charging, times 12 months is $1,080,000. I would like to know why the board has waived $1 million to come after the 34 people that have elected to have their golf fees taken annually. At best, you're talking $4,000, just over $4,000. It makes no sense. I would like to have an appropriate response.
Well, my first response is that an annual golf fee is really $1,740, and it should have been listed that way, and you were discounted to $1,600 if you paid it at once. So that is a mistake that was made, and I can't answer for that.
Well, what does that mean? I'm sorry. What does that mean?
What it means?
I went over there, and they told me how much to pay, and I paid it.
Okay.
So how was it, I just don't understand the discount, I'm sorry.
Well, if it costs you $1,740 and you pay it all at once and it costs you $1,600, it's a $140 discount. In fact, the matter, the language used in our fee structure didn't adequately explain that. And as a result, I think the term convenience fee was used. I can only speak from a board position, not an operations position. That's number one. I think it's important to remember that from our perspective, the golfing community has an outstanding value here, and we are trying to encourage the annual payment, not a monthly payment. The way that we do that is to offer a price for cash and a price for payment, just like if you were going to buy your insurance. If you pay monthly, you pay a little bit more than if you pay annually. So that's the best explanation I can
Okay. If administration goes into my record and they sit down and say, I'm going to go and take your water bill by ACH, your assessment by ACH, and then they add golf to that, why or how do you justify that as a $10 transaction for a 10-cent transaction? And more importantly, why are you waiving $1 million because of the water in the assessment? If we're in austere times, and that's why I was told that we came up with a convenience fee. You want to collect $4,000, but you waive $1 million. Doesn't make sense.
Well, once again, I wouldn't classify it as a convenience fee. I'm sorry that
That's what they said.
I understand that. I think we've established that, and I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. As far as water, if you just looked at the presentation here, we're making a whole lot of money at water. We can't use any of that money for anything but water, so it wouldn't make sense for us to charge more for somebody paying their water bill to pay it on time. That's also, water would be more of a staple, much like your monthly assessment is a staple, whereas any other fee that you choose to pay for recreation is not obligatory. It's your choice. As far as $10 to 10 cents, well, if you buy a Coke or a Dr. Pepper Diet Cherry, that costs a couple of cents to put together, but we pay $1.85 for that bottle.
Well, I don't deny that.
Okay, well, so what we've done is we've given you a choice, and some people choose to pay the $1,600, and some people choose to pay the $1,740. That's your choice.
Well, when I went out to member services, maybe 2 weeks ago or a week ago, to do 2015, that runs out, well, it was discounted as I was told, because it's going to run out in December rather than going through February.
That's
So
correct.
It was discounted.
Yeah.
Okay. I paid it, and I paid it annually. But there was never any discount. They went right to the chart, said, here's what it is, we're taking off 2 months or whatever, and that's what I paid. My only point is that there, to me, there is a fairness issue, that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you want to charge for an ACH transaction, then any ACH transaction should be charged at $10. That's all I'm saying. You've given away $1 million. I don't care if it's water, if it's trash, or whatever else. You've given away the money. And the only thing you're going to get out of the golf people is $4,000.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Steve McKee, 3 Tyree Place. Wanted to make a couple of corrections. There was a comment, I guess a month or so ago, about the someone looking at the facilities, JJ's, and I'm not sure if people just didn't know or whatever, but 9/12/13, sure enough, it's in the minutes that their JJ's was looking at us. So I wanted to clarify that. And then the second thing was, it was floating around, I guess, that Mulligan's had been closed for a couple of years. And according to the 7, 10, 14 minutes, they were closing at the end of August. So, wanted to clarify that. And during that period, it was mentioned that someone was looking at the restaurant as a lessee, and I recall a month or so ago, it seemed like some people on the board didn't actually know I was interested. And I went back and looked through the minutes, and sure enough, JJ's, for example, was mentioned, and a couple of other people for various other places. But sure enough, there wasn't ever any mention of me, so I'm not sure what the process is there, but I want to point that out.
Okay.
So in addition to that, I have a couple of questions. Has the decision been made to make this a full-service restaurant?
That's on the agenda. We're going to vote on that tonight.
Okay. Along those lines, and maybe this is too specific, is it going to be like a mixed menu restaurant?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Rather than say specific food. We don't really know, I guess.
We don't know.
Okay. Has anything been made, a decision to eliminate the cost share proposal?
No.
But I guess we'll find out later today.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question was, has the construction actually began? The lady mentioned about Medfield and tearing out the kitchen there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the vent works at the same place.
Don't know. That's something that we'll have to discuss with staff.
Yeah. So has any construction or anything began out there at the Highlands? Probably not. Nothing's begun, okay. So there's no cleanup or anything like that. If we put the current negotiations on hold, is there a time frame? I think a month or so ago, someone mentioned about the golf season starting up and wanting to get something done for that.
We want to make the right decision.
I mean, we all do.
Right. We want to make the right decision.
So the fact that golf starting up doesn't impact, okay. Fair enough. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is Clubhouse Restaurants. And what I'd like to consider the board to accept is if we could maybe initiate a discussion initially regarding the Medfield Clubhouse and then move on after that to Highlands. Does anyone object to that? Okay. John, if you could maybe kind of give us an idea of what your sort of sense is regarding where we are concerning Highlands, or Medfield. As
many of you know, Charlie and I went out and met with a bunch of Medfield neighbors Saturday.
Microphone.
Charlie and I went out and met with many of the neighbors out there last Saturday. I showed them basically the same proposal we've all seen from staff about the snack bar, mini cafe idea. In general, they were all very supportive. Zadine just about read everything I could tell you. I mean, that was, if you listen to her again, that's about what you'll hear from me. There were minor concerns about logistics, about, where are we going to play cards during the construction, and how soon can we get rid of this, and well, when can we move over here? I literally got the feeling that there were people out there dividing up the space for new projects. I would say that if we had started construction today, it wouldn't have been soon enough for most of them.
So what we need to do is to decide the next step with regard to the Metfield Clubhouse. And what I've heard and what I understand is that the proposal for the quick serve kind of service is something that we have looked at, and that the Metfield neighbors that we have communicated with seem to be in support of. So what we need to do is decide kind of the next step in the process in terms of getting that started.
Yes, and as I had showed, we discussed this, as Zadine mentioned, we've had this discussion now for a number of years, that the Metfield area could not sustain a full restaurant, and that there was a need for some type of food and beverage service out there, especially around the golf course. So we had an architect just give us a conceptual drawing. I've showed that a number of times to the board and in public meetings. There was two ways of doing it, one with less modification, one with more modification to that end of the building. As we have talked about, according to how we lay it out, there will have to be utilities run to that area. Of course, there is no gas in that area. The electrical, I do not believe, would be substantial enough to handle deep fryers such as that. If, according to where we go, whether or not we have to have a hood or not would have to be installed. So there is quite a bit of structural work that will have to take place to move that. Having said that, that has always been, and again, we talked about this well over a decade ago, that one of the issues with our clubhouses are that the kitchens are not really made in the location or specifically designed well to handle the workload, and so it takes more staff. It's inefficient. It's further away from the people, so all of those things happen, and it ends up running up the cost, and I think made it much harder for any of us to try to run those facilities. So we need to move everything over there. Grill, everything that we want has got to be moved over to that location, so it is right there at the golf shop. We need to have some segregation between the two. You don't want the food being prepared and stuff permeating the garments that we're trying to sell, so that we can't exactly make them one big room, but we will need to do some modifications into the area. There may or may not be some equipment that has to be moved, as far as some of the networking equipment. As Zadie mentioned, the office and storage between those two facilities. That's where the servers and the communications equipment is all set up. So will there have to be a little bit of that type of thing that'll have to be rerouted. At the time, we were given about a $10,000 estimate to do the equipment, and then about $100,000 to get the cost over there of getting the utilities over there, buying chairs, all those type of things. Very much just an estimate of the architect about 3 years ago.
Okay. What I would entertain is a motion to authorize Tommy to move forward with a new architect design consistent with the input that we have done. If you could get us an estimate of what that cost might be, then I would like that to be our next step.
Yes, for this small of a project, it's certainly not a very large project, unless the architect that we initially gave us the conceptual drawing, he is like a two-person firm, very inexpensive compared to the larger ones, and has a relationship with some of the contractors already with some of the work, and so I think we could get one of those contractors in there to help him put together an estimate and get something together here fairly quickly.
Okay.
So we'll then have to decide according to the amount, how soon we want to get this in. Do we do any kind of waiver of the whole bid project process? Do we design, build, or whatever? But we'll get a better estimate than what we have right now and update it.
John?
Say, I would be willing to make the motion that we ask staff to turn this over to an architect and get an estimate. We need to allocate money for that, or is there?
I would say that if the board feels strongly that we're going to go forward, which it seems like that we have that commitment, we'll just add it to the project once we get it approved.
Okay, that's fine.
Then I'd make a motion that staff be directed to hire an architect and get us an estimate and real plans, not conceptual plans.
Second. Any discussion? Vote.
A motion to authorize the GM and staff to hire an architect and get estimates and designs for ideas is currently proposed in the Metfield restaurant location. All in favor? Any opposed?
The next item that we've sort of added is the Highlands restaurant. And a number of us attended the meeting on January 29th. We very clearly heard from the membership that they'd like us to consider a restaurant at that facility. And that's in the process right now. I'm hearing from the membership that they'd like us to acknowledge that the intent of the board is to consider a restaurant and not any other type of food service. So I'd entertain a motion that be the direction that we direct management to pursue.
I'll make a motion that we continue to encourage management to seek out the best possible lessee for that space to offer our members a full-service restaurant at the Highlands. And again, we want to make, to Charlie's point, the right decision, and we'd like it to be sooner rather than later, but ultimately getting the right decision is more important than a quick decision.
You want to maybe put that in a little
Form of a motion. I'll make a motion that we continue to pursue the leasing of the Highlands restaurant to a qualified operator for a full-service restaurant.
Second.
Is there going to be a time limit on this? Are we going to wait, is it going to be a year? Are we going to do it in 6 months? Or, I'm just saying, try to find an operator within a certain length of time.
Yeah, I mean, we're actively looking at operators, and
Maybe another 2 years, 2 years. That's my question.
Yeah.
You're going to look, but is there going to be a time limit to do this?
yeah, I mean, the expectation is that we would have, an operator selected here in the next several months, but that's going to depend on
There's a viable,
if there's a viable.
there could be, it could turn into a longer time if the board votes to move forward. And there's no viable operators, again, we go back to making the right decision. So I don't know that we could put a timeline on it.
We will have the advertisements going out into major newspapers and all around the area March 1st. So we'll start seeing all of those things. I think we've got all the orders placed already. And so we're talking about, you recall how many newspapers it was? 10 of the major newspapers.
Linda?
Well, and on the other part of it, subsidizing the hood and,
We're not there yet.
okay,
We're not there yet. Okay? We have a motion on the floor that we're considering a full-service restaurant. There's some discussion about a timeline. I haven't got an amended motion, so the motion is, any further discussion regarding the motion on the floor?
The motion is to encourage management to pursue a qualified lessee for a full-service restaurant located at the Highlands Clubhouse. All in favor? Any opposed?
Your proxy voting for Dave. All right. Then the next issue regarding the Highlands Restaurant is the equipment and the range hood. My understanding is that there was a expense for one of those items in the budget. Could you maybe clarify that?
Yes, we were aware of the walk-in problems, and so we had already requested the board to give us the money to replace the walk-in in the 2015 budget, and that was approved. It was just during November, or was it December, when the hood issue came up? Okay, October is when the hood issue came up, and that's when we discovered that that was going to have to be replaced as well. But there has been no money allocated to that.
Do we want to allocate money for the hood, or wait until we get a operator? That's up for discussion. I'll entertain discussion on that issue.
I personally think it'd be advisable to wait until we have somebody so we know exactly who's coming in and what their wishes are. Perhaps they don't want a hood or want a small hood or whatever the case may be. So buying things prematurely doesn't make good sense.
I agree completely. According to the operator, according to their preference, there are self-contained units out there now that you don't have to set them under a hood. So there is other options out there. And again, according to the person and according to their preferences, they may want to go a different route. And to spend that kind of money up, just not knowing what we're going to have, it may not be a good idea.
These are not items that would take months to get once you order.
Yes, they will.
We wait on the hood. And as far as the cleanup and that sort of thing, can you give us an idea what your sense is regarding that?
Well, until we start wanting to use the kitchen, essentially what you do is you would go through and you would just clean up the mess that the prior person had left, as well as any dusting and stuff, and you generally will allow them to clean up the inside of all the equipment, because they're the ones that's going to have to make it pass health codes. Unless we're going to be using the kitchen, I do not see anything that's why we need to clean it right now, because it's just going to continue to get dirty. Dust is going to continue to collect there. So I'm not sure that it would be the best use of the funds, and it wouldn't help us any as far as getting someone in there quicker.
Just a question. If that facility is able to be rented out to a group that's having a function there and they want to bring in food, would it be important for the kitchen to be clean? Whether or not they're using the kitchen facilities to prepare it, but wouldn't it be, I mean,
If we generally have not allowed use of the kitchens because unless we want to put, either we have two choices. Either we have staff to clean it, or we hire some custodial company to clean it. And the likelihood of us getting people to want to rent the facility and be willing to pay for the cleanup, and you just can't depend on the users cleaning it up enough that the next person is going to be happy with it.
but to have it, okay, let me phrase it a different way. If someone were wanting to utilize it and were willing to pay for the cleanup in a contract, is that something that we would be able to do for them while we're looking for this restaurateur?
Yes. Do you recall how much it was to do the initial cleaning? Okay, like $3,000 to do the initial
Okay.
cleaning.
Okay, that's that answers my
Any other further discussion from the board regarding Collins? New business, Benton, Washington County Regional Water Authority rate increase, Tommy?
As everyone is aware, I'm sure that we have two water sources. One of them is the Beaver Lake Water District, and one is the Benton Washington Regional Public Water Authority. The Beaver Lake is the one we buy the water through Bentonville, and that was our original at Coal Cave over by Lake Bella Vista. We added another facility and a much larger pump station quite a few years ago. But as our internal infrastructure was not sufficient to handle the growth that was happening all throughout the village, we saw a continual decrease in pressure over into the Highlands area. And so when 2-ton came online, we connected the Highlands area to 2-ton at that point in time to give us our second source, but also to be able to get water over there with sufficient pressure and capacity at the Highlands. At this point in time, the board of the 2-ton authority, which we are a member of that board, is considering a couple of options. In 2014, 1 out of every 5 days, the current system is running its maximum 24 hours a day on one of the pumps serving the southern area. And we are on the upper end. So this is the area that the line goes by us and then goes southwest. This is an increase of 14% over the time that it was needed in 2013, and this, of course, was not a weather-related issue because the two summers were very similar. After several extensive reviews by the board's long-range planning committee and discussion by the full board, 2 potential solutions are being provided to be sent back to the individual governing bodies to be discussed. The engineering on both of these solutions will take a minimum of 9 to 12 months, and construction and financing will likely not occur until sometime in 2016. This means that there will be at least 2 more summers that there will be a lack of capacity, especially on the south end of the system. Both solutions to address the supply issue involves a potential rate increase. All rate increase calculations were done in a very conservative manner and represent the worst-case scenario that believed in terms of an increase. No increase, and again, we're talking 2-ton now. This is not what we're talking about on our system. No increase was proposed for 2015. Engineering cost could be paid during 2015 through the capital improvement set-aside funds that are currently available, and therefore not impacting the 2015 budget that has been approved. At this point in time, there's no rate increase until 2016, and numbers for an actual final rate increase would be based on our 2014-2015 actual revenues and expected upgrade. We are going out to get an S&P rating for 2-ton, just like we did when we refinanced the Bella Vista bonds. We would like, as a member of the board, to know what our board is wanting us to vote of the 2 options. There are 2. One of them we are calling the Wildcat Connection. This has an estimated cost of about $8 million, which would be an increase of 26 cents per 1,000 gallons. The other one, which is adding a parallel line to the current transmission line, is about $15 million and would be about a 48 cent increase. Realistically, at some point, both of these projects are likely to need to be done. If growth comes and is similar to what we have seen in earlier years, if we go the Wildcat Connection, the less expensive one, we will most likely have to very quickly move in and put the transmission line in as well. So growth is the whole factor of whether or not we could go with the Wildcat connection and it do us 2 years or 10 years, or we go with the parallel, and that should do us a much longer period of time. So growth is going to be the variable of when it would have to be done. It's our recommendation, as far as from the staff of the Bella Vista Village, is that we go ahead and go with the parallel line. And again, that is $15 million, and the estimate is 48 cents per thousand. As we talked about at the work session, I do not see that this will have an impact on Bella Vista Village's rates to our customers. We have been building up a cash surplus to address water line replacement. And you saw the positive numbers for 2014. They were even better than budget. And again, that's because we were building up money to replace lines that we had been told were ending entering the end of their service life. We have been looking at some of the leaks that we've been getting in areas, and from our untrained eye, the deterioration does not seem to be there. So instead of entering into an aggressive program to start replacing that line, which has been recommended in the past, we have entered into an agreement, and it was mentioned earlier, that we have contracted with the U of A to take samples that we are providing them throughout the village and to do testing and to determine whether or not the structural integrity of those asbestos cement lines really requires replacement. They have got online. We have been providing them with samples for a number of months now. They had to order quite a bit of equipment. This is something that they've never done before. Matter of fact, this has never been done before. All records show. And this is a very important thing that could save us quite a lot of money in the long term, or at least move those expenditures out decades versus doing it within the next few years as we had anticipated. So because of that, what we feel is probably not going to be a need to enter into a major cost of the line replacements. We do not feel that there will be any impact on our rates from this 2-ton increase, either way it goes.
The water that's sourced for Bella Vista comes from the contract we have with the city of Bentonville and also from the 2-ton source. My understanding is that the vast majority of the water that is used in Bella Vista is from the source of the city of Bentonville. It's at a lower cost than the 2-ton cost. And we also have a guaranteed requirement from the city of Bentonville that we don't have.
That's correct. We did have a contract that we renegotiated with Bentonville a few years ago. We were able to, as a part of renegotiating that contract with much more favorable terms, we did agree to do a 700 million gallon minimum from Bentonville. And since most of our users are east of 279, which essentially is where we've drawn the line between the two suppliers, we are able to control how much water we buy from 2-ton very easily. At this point in time, for cost reasons, from 2-ton, we have not put in any capability to pump water from 2-ton to the rest of Bella Vista. So we are mainly using Bentonville water to make sure that we do get our 700 million minimum and try not to get too much from Bentonville, from 2-ton, because it is slightly higher. So we do try to manage that to make sure that we do get the less expensive.
Just to set the record straight, there is only one rate in Bella Vista.
That's correct.
Correct.
Um, I'd entertain a motion to direct the representative from the POA on the Benton, Washington Regional Public Water Authority to support one of the two options.
I'll make a motion that we instruct our representative on the two-ton board to support the parallel connection alternative. And that is honestly based on the recommendation of our staff and their understanding and best estimate of the most cost-effective solution to the water problem.
And we would say that as option B, the $15 million option, right?
Second. I need a second.
Second.
Okay. And your comment is that it's the second option, B, which is the 15 million. Okay. Any further discussion? Call for vote.
Direct staff, or direct the Benton, Washington Regional Water Authority representative from the POA to select the parallel connection, which is option B, at a cost of $15 million. All in favor? Any opposed?
Mr. Nellis. This is Bob Nellis. He's the chairman of the Property Owners Association Election Committee.
Mr. Chairman, just for your advisement, I have notified Tom and Charlie that this is my last official act as the chairman of the election committee. I am resigning for personal reasons, as well as resigning from the golf committee. We have
We're terribly disappointed that
Well,
you can't continue to serve.
I've been doing it for a few years.
Yes, you have, and very well, I might add.
I have been grooming a replacement who will take up the torch. His name is Buddy Gray,
Okay.
who is a very stalwart individual, and he has a degree in computer sciences. So if you need his help, Tom, please ask him.
Okay.
Now, notwithstanding, he was going to be here tonight, but unfortunately, he's ill.
Oh, that's.
He opened the window in influenza.
Mhm.
Now, in accordance with Article 5, Section 1C of the bylaws of Bella Vista Property Owners Association, the POA Corporate Secretary presents herewith in alphabetical order, it says here 5, but there's only 4, 4 candidates for board vacancies occurring May 2015, replacing those members whose terms expire at that time. And those candidates are as follows: Joshua Hart, Patricia Laurie, or Patrick Laurie, I'm sorry, Stephen McKee, and Ron Stratton. And are any of those particular individuals here this evening? We have 2, thank you. Now the next order of preference is that we do a lottery to facilitate which order that those particular names will be on the ballot. And I'm not going to talk about the ballot tonight, Charlie.
Okay, thank you. We'll save that
I'll
for
let
another
Buddy
day.
Gray do that.
Yeah, we'll save that for another day.
So do you have that available, Kathy? Kathy does have a proxy for those individuals that are not here tonight to put their name in the hat. So their names will appear on the ballot Stephen McGee will be in number 1 position. Patrick Laurie would be 2 position. Ron Stratton will be 3 position. And Joshua Hart will be in position number 4.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your support over the last few years.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is we have been discussing a number of issues with the new City of Bella Vista administration that was elected and took office January this year. Our plan at this point is to have a joint City of Bella Vista Property Owners Association community meeting. It will be Tuesday, March 24th, 7 p.m. at Reardon Hall. And what we hope to do is to promote that town hall meeting over the next month. And we hope to get a very good turnout. Mayor Christie has indicated that some of the committees that he has working on different issues will be giving a little community report. And we will certainly be available to answer any questions that anyone has regarding POA matters. So again, you'll hear the announcement of the Tuesday, March 24th community meeting, and we would encourage everyone to attend. The next item on the agenda is the report of committees. The Marketing and Communications Committee met on February 2nd. There was a report from the Bella Vista Ambassadors Group that are hosting individuals that are interested in becoming property owners in Bella Vista. There have been, since the ambassadors gotten started, 35 people they've hosted, and of those 35, 5 have bought property in Bella Vista and have become residents. So that's some progress. There's been some work by the ambassadors with Susan Chambers of Walmart, who is the individual that is coordinating the hiring of military personnel at Walmart. And there's some effort to get some contribution towards having the ambassador to advertise in military magazines. So that's something that is being pursued by the ambassadors. We did a insight survey online asking those people who receive insights to tell us a little bit about what their interest is. Of the people, of the 157 members who responded, 88% said they read insights, and 61% felt that they would read or refer to insights more frequently if there was information regarding the city of Bella Vista included in insights. So we're in the process of looking at possibly expanding the number of pages to insights and cooperating with the city to get their involvement in that publication. We've had some preliminary discussions with the mayor, and there seems to be an interest on that part. We also made mention at the meeting regarding the Bella Vista City Guide that came out a couple weeks ago, and the fact that there's been a number of member comments, and the information is useful because it's in one place that they can refer to. And that was basically the extent of the meeting. There wasn't, Bob? Yeah. There wasn't a Rules and Regs committee meeting due to lack of a forum, and we'll schedule that in early March. Any joint advisory committee meetings,
Charlie,
committee reports?
Before that, I just have a question. We had a really good presentation by our Director of Marketing and Communication.
Oh, that's right.
And I was under the impression, based on that meeting, that we were going to be going ahead with some planning. And I'm wondering where we sit with that in regards to moving forward.
With the marketing
effort.
plan? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's sort of a work in progress, and we'll get a little more of some detail going into next month. Okay? All right. Any Joint Advisory Committee reports?
The golf committee, as Charlie said earlier, the rounds of the budget were up 1,533 to budget, which was very good. I have no idea what's going to happen with February.
Mm-hmm.
The golf expo that was supposed to be held yesterday has been obviously canceled and has rescheduled for March 18th at the same time. The leader meeting will be at 3 o'clock. The golf expo itself will be 4 to 6 o'clock, both at Reardon Hall, and everybody's welcome to attend.
The National Golf Course Superintendents Association is having their convention, for lack of a better term. This week, I'm going to be attending at my own cost,
Mm-hmm.
so that there's no question of anybody paying for me. I think it's important to recognize that our director of grounds is that association's president this year. And has
Key times, yes.
done a fantastic job, not only here, but for that organization. So
Good.
excited about that.
Okay. Any other, John?
Yes, the lakes. I was at the Lakes Committee meeting yesterday. I walked away from there with a very interesting perspective. The Lakes Committee, which basically is very tied with the Fly Tires and a couple other fishing groups, they produce a very strong volunteer effort for the village. It really multiplies the use of our staff. It's almost like they have a third arm. And I just wanted to go down a list a couple of the things that these guys do every month, and every week, year-round. They monitor the clarity of all of our lakes to take care of our water quality and our nutrient systems. Another group of volunteers goes around weekly and at a regular schedule and checks the parks to make sure there's no problems and things that are broken that they report back to Fern and to Daryl. The committee as a whole is currently working on two 50th anniversary programs with Connie Willoughby. They have a Fishing in Paradise Day, which is a free fishing day. They actually have a fishing tournament planned with with a large number of catfish for kids fishing derby, possibly a fish fry, and then they're going to do the annual Paddle in Paradise along with that. In January, which is such a lovely month for weather, they placed 4 barge loads of Christmas trees in Loch Lomond for fish habitat. And what Charlie doesn't know is they did put out 750 more trout today.
Yeah, good. Yay.
So I think they keep that a secret for him. It's just amazing to see all the things these guys do that really make the village a nice place. Oh, by the way, the other one I forgot about, they take care of the geese program, the BVPOA program that keeps the golf courses and the lakes both free of geese. And they're also the Canyon Creek program you saw about that. They also oversee all of that. So it's just wonderful to see a group that does so much for the village. And if you run across one of them, it's always one of those guys you can say thank you to.
Good. Thank you. Next item is announcements. The next General Manager Board monthly meeting will be held on Thursday, March 5th, 2:30 p.m. in the Country Club Boardroom. This is a closed discussion meeting. The next Board of Directors work session is Thursday, March 12th, 8 a.m. in the Country Club Board meeting room. The next Board of Directors regular meeting will be Thursday, March 19th, 6:30 in this Country Club Board meeting room. And I'd like to remind everyone about the community meeting, which is Tuesday, March 24th, 7 p.m. at Reardon Hall. Any other comments?
I want to give a compliment to our Member Services Department. I went over there today at 11:42 to renew my 4-boat licenses, my golf seat lease. They were in different places and hadn't been transferred over. David helped me. He apologized for taking so much time. And I was in and out of there with my new photo ID in 12 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
And he's apologizing to me.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Okay.
great job.
Good job. Okay. Entertain a motion for adjournment. Okay, all in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you.